Good afternoon. This is Dr. Saul Goldstein. The opinions expressed by these two, fellows, colored folks, may or may not be the opinions of their employers or mine. Holla at me.
Top top, they want top top. They love top top. They want top top. They love top top.
If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble.
We have some new alignment in NWSL and MLS. Washington Spirit have now made Audi Field home of DC United, their permanent home for the 2023 season and beyond. Looks like it is going to be a multi-year, but they did not say how many years. 14 dates. And yeah, big move for the Washington Spirit. My question is, without knowing the exact rent that the Spirit will be playing, what do you think the terms of the deal were? Do you think DC United get a small piece of ownership of the Spirit?
No, I think this is just straight up like, we charging you rent to play on our field,
Yeah.
which and I'd be interested to hear like your experience because we've talked about this before for the WSL championship game. You were down at Audi Field. So
Hmm.
I'd be interested to hear like your experience of like the field and the stadium itself. I think this is a good move, just like in the short term.
Hmm.
But like, not to be skeptical, man, but this comes back to like one of the league questions I always have for the NWSL is like ownership, 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 ownership. Like, how are you going to increase these franchise values in any meaningful way if you're not owning shit, right?
Right.
Like, the number one way that you increase your franchise values traditionally in sports is own a physical location. You sell sponsorships off of that physical location, like you do like naming rights for the stadium. You have the billboards that like go around the field or whatever with sponsorships you sell in there. Like you sell different advertisements for like stadium announcements and shit like that. Like they might be able to get a little money from that depending on how this deal is structured, like
Hmm.
based on if they get to run their own advertisings during their games and stuff like that. But I mean, that's like, that's peanuts compared to like the money you get from like the sponsorship of like the field itself, and
Right.
like, what you get at like, the 100% of the gate that you get and like all that other stuff, because you're not going to get that if you're renting the field. Like you're doing like a gate split if you're
Yep.
renting the field essentially, right? Because it's whatever you like, you might get 100% day of for the tickets, but then like, it's whatever minus you paid to rent the field, right?
Right.
So like, I just wonder, like what this means for the long-term solution of the Washington Spirit getting like their own locations and stuff, because the NWSL is never really going to move past being like an afterthought kind of women's soccer project if they don't start owning shit. Like there's only
Facts.
like one field, there's only one specific field for the team like in NWSL, and that's like the Current are going to like own their own stadium
Hmm.
in like a year or two when they finish building it, right? Which is a really big deal. Like if you're
Huge.
talking about traditional valuations. So like, I'd be really interested to hear like, your thoughts on like the experience they're going to have at Audi Field, cuz I've never been there, but you've been there I think a couple times.
Yep.
But like when it comes to the business side of this, like, you know, time will tell, like, how good of a deal this is on paper outside of just like we needed a better stadium to play in.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely needed a better stadium to play in, but I also feel like whatever sweetheart deal um, DC United slash MLS gave them to play there, it still a big number that is taking out of your budget that you could use for other things like marketing the damn team. So I just don't really see how this makes anything that much better for players and fans alike. It's definitely better for the players having proper facilities and a place to play. Concessions for fans and all that stuff will be nicer. But again, that is money that is now going to rent, that is out of the budget for other things that actually help grow the visibility of the team and improve the product on the field. So the stadium itself, it's nice. It's quote unquote downtown DC, right next to where the Washington Nationals play. Um, I don't know how easy it is to access for DC people, but I found it very easy to access as an outsider. I like having two stadiums in one type of thing. So like NYCFC stadium is going to be right next to City Field. That type of shit is super dope to me, um, because it's an area that people already know and they already go to. So it's not going to be like, oh, I got to slog all the way out of my way to the other side of town to go to this place. It's something they know how to get to. They already go to, and it's just one more thing. Maybe they can get a 2 for in a day or something like that, or in a weekend. All that's good. Views are very good. Setup is very good, but I think it's way too big. Like it seats 20 something thousand. Well, I can't say they're never going to feel that, but it's going to be extremely difficult for them to fill that. Um, Even with the championship that they have, they're just not turning out that much. So, but no one in NWSL is really, except for KC and Angel City and Portland. So, yeah, like I said, this is a lot of rent money for, I'm not sure, the best reasons. I understand that they need to have a better facility, but like you said, you have to sort out either owning your own or, you know, making some sort of modifications to where you play that keeps money in your budget for other things. Renting stadiums is just not the way to go. NYCFC knows this. Gotham knows this. They're at Red Bull Arena. Unless they got the super, super sweetheart deal, which I can't even understand how that will work out, because at the end of the day, that money still needs to be made. So they're collecting it somehow, some way out of the budget. Things are not so great. We'll just have to see what happens. How many more people can they bring just because it's at Audi Field?
Well, I don't think they got a sweetheart deal because, like, in the article, it says that, like, the Spirit now are spending significantly more in, like, facility costs.
Yeah.
And, like, I just don't. I understand the hustle of what people are trying to do for the NWSL and women's soccer in general,
Mm-hmm.
but the way to build the league is not going to be on the back of like rental facilities.
Yeah. 100%.
And I just think at some point you're going to start to plateau when, like, you're not building your own stadiums. And, like, of course they needed a better place to play because from what I heard, Segra was like absolutely trash.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe you buy Segra and improve it. Like,
Right. Right.
like there's just something that comes with ownership that allows you to actually start generating revenue from the facility that you're never going to get back just like renting it.
Yeah. And you know, I'm not personally, I'm not saying this thinking that the people running these franchises don't know this, but it is just interesting with all the conversation that we have around the business of the women's game and paying the women more and getting better facilities. How can you do that if you're renting? Like, it's just like that's just not how
100%.
sports yeah, that's just not how sports business works. So, as much as fans want to see, better whatever for the women's game, the current structure is not sustainable. This, like, it's just not going to happen. So until you guys start, getting 10 friends each to come out to games with you, and getting them all to buy jerseys as Christmas presents, and really improving the revenue of the women's game, then this is what it will continue to be. And I just don't see it lasting. Well, I can see it lasting, but I don't see it growing beyond its current format if this is the entire model of the league. Thank you for checking out Chop Soccer Pod Short Corners. For more, check us out on Twitter @Chop Soccer Pod and Instagram @Chop Soccer Pod. You know the vibes.